says the CSOs and other stakeholders have pledged to continue fighting for Zambia's natural resources and will be going to court to halt the copper mining project in the middle of the Lower Zambezi National Park. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka, Mr. Bataki says the CSOs understand the need for investment in Zambia, but that this should create jobs to increase the tax base.
That we are not against mining. As the old adage says, posterity will judge us all.
Speaking at the same briefing, Worldwide Fund for Nature Chief External Engagement Officer, Fungai Conwell Musana, has urged government to review and cancel the license for the mining operation in the Lower Zambezi National Park.
And tourism, to mention a few. We believe that allowing the proposed mining project in the Lower Zambezi has a potential of affecting ecosystems in and around the neighboring countries. That is Zambia, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. In Zambia, and also learning from the past, we have examples that have laid, such as the lead poisoning in Kawe, pollution of the Kafue River on the Copper Belt, and the landscape scarring that is currently taking place in the Lochinver National Park, which has displaced wildlife distribution in the mined areas. We can do better. End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, Zambia is a signatory to the SADC Protocol for Shared Water Resources, which aims to foster closer cooperation among member states for the protection, management, and use of shared water courses. The shared water courses are central to livelihood and socio-economic development within the communities that surround the shared water course. Proceeding with a large-scale open cast mining in such an ecologically sensitive area will be an indirect contravention of the SADC protocols. I believe that's not the route we want to take. Ladies and gentlemen, to secure a healthy, prosperous, and future for communities in the Lower Zambezi, covering Chirundu, Rufunsa, Luangwa districts in Zambia, WWF urges the government to review, or rather cancel the license for this mining operation. This would be consistent with the prior political commitments as espoused in the environmental sustainability pillar of the 8th National Development Plan.
President Hakainde Hichilema has officially launched the National Decentralization Policy and the Zambia Devolution Support Program. Speaking during the launch at Chalimbana Local Government Training Institute in Chongwe, President Hichilema has stressed the importance of decentralization in taking services closer to the people. Mr. Hichilema says the local level is a convergence point where the central government, local government, cooperating partners and other stakeholders meet to deliver service to the people. He states that this is of vital importance to the New Dawn government in delivering services to the people without segregation across the 10 provinces.
We want to be one of the best for the African continent that in the remotest area of the country we can have running water. And technology has allowed us to achieve that. What technology? Solar. We did a borehole, we put the solar pump, tank, all of a sudden we can run water through a 45, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers away from the borehole site. Fantastic, isn't it? And the entire we of our health center will have running water. And our mothers can deliver, our sisters can deliver in the most hygienic conditions. We cannot rely that the fellow like me who came from the village, who was born in the grassland town without running water, can be president of Zambia and allow our mothers, nieces, sisters to deliver and start with leaving lots of mothers and the newborn too. It cannot be right. For me, this is personal. Yes, this is a group responsibility, but this is personal. And this is personal to ensure that those Chalimbana students can get meal allowances because only then they can go to school and get a gift and pass. Meal allowances. So one component we train them, another component we fund them. How delighted do I feel today that part of what I did was to be taken around to see groups, corporations that have benefited from CDS running chicken runs, operating chicken runs, making peanut butter from groundnuts, using equipment that is fabricated locally. What a day. Some were saying, oh, why register the company?
And Local Government and Rural Development Minister Garin Kombo says in supporting the decentralization agenda, the ministry is undertaking programs aimed at enhancing the capabilities of local authorities to embrace the decentralization drive that will result in effective and efficient provisions of services to communities. Speaking earlier, German Ambassador to Zambia Anne Magna Michel, who spoke on behalf of cooperating partners, says the launch marks a pivotal moment of bringing development to the people and for encouraging citizens participating in Zambia. Ms. Wagner Michel says this is a testament to the New Dawn government prioritizing decentralization, providing an opportunity for all citizens across the country to be involved in the planning and actions taken to address their development challenges based on their specific needs. She states that the decentralization policy, if implemented effectively, can trigger enormous changes. She also says the Zambian government, through the launch of the decentralization policy, is taking the historic step of empowering local governments and providing them with adequate resources and capacity. Minister of Finance and National Planning Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane has appealed to Zambia's Official Creditor Committee to make substantial progress in their deliberations at their next meeting. In a statement, Dr. Msokotwane says this will facilitate preparations of the Memorandum of Understanding so that the country may swiftly resolve its debt overhang and access the next tranche of IMF financing. He says delays to debt restructuring are having a significant impact on the economy and the livelihood of the people. Dr. Msokotwane states that the uncertainty created by the protracted restructuring process has put pressure on the kwacha and made it difficult to attract much-needed foreign investment despite Zambia's vast natural resources and improved business climate. Dr. Msokotwane has stressed that debt relief is therefore urgently needed for Zambia to maintain its trajectory of economic recovery and growth. He says on its part, government will continue to do all it can to push for members of the Official Creditor Committee to reach consensus so that the matter can be brought to a close. Police in Lusaka have formally charged and arrested Dr. Christopher Zumani Zimba, age 43, of farm number 100 in Chongwe, together with 3 others for the offense of being in possession of articles for terrorism and proliferation purposes. This is contrary to Section 25 of the Anti-Terrorism Act number 6 of 2018, as read with Section 2 of the amended Anti-Terrorism Act number 6 of 2023. Those that have been jointly arrested with Dr. Zimba include Given Piri, age 37, of a known house in Mrs. Compound, Marlon Banda, age 36, of plot number 811 in 12 Miles area, and Port Fagwai, age 44, of plot number 194/17 in Tendero Compound in Lusaka. Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says it is alleged that the accused jointly and whilst acting together with others unknown did possess offensive articles, namely Deep 600 and Allothane and others with intent to endanger life. Mr. Hamonga says the incident occurred in February 2020 in Petauke district in Eastern Province. Zambia Must Prosper Party ZMP President Kelvin Fubebwalia, KBF, is disturbed by attacks on Lusaka Diocese Archbishop Alik Banda and Chawama Catholic Parish Priest Father Anthony Salangeta by ruling UPND Secretary General Batuke Imenda. Mr. Wala says the attacks and name-calling of the 2 men of God and by Mr. Imenda is unfair, unreasonable, and a recipe for a strained relation between the church and the government. He says Mr. Imenda must know that his attacks and name-calling of priests will not change the fact that Zambians are going through difficult economic situations under the UPND government than any other previous government. Mr. Wala says Mr. Imenda will do himself and the UPND government more good to focus attention on addressing the problems facing the citizens because discontent is growing by the day in the country. Mr. Wala says government and the UPND will be cheating themselves to think that they will be receiving praises when citizens are failing to have 3 meals a day, when there are no drugs in hospitals, the cost of doing business is escalating under a very unstable exchange rate, and many such difficulties.
We want to render our unequivocal support to the Church in general and the Catholic Church in particular. We want to state that as Zambia must prosper, we stand with the Church in all its dealings with the communities in which they live. When the Church leadership guides and gives feedback to political leaders on the happenings and the ongoings in society, it is because they know what they are talking about. It is unfortunate that the ruling party, the United Party for National Development, UPND, is today engaging the church and insulting the church and castigating the church for speaking on behalf of the Zambian people. This is unfortunate. We in Zambia Must Prosper believe that because Zambia is a Christian nation, the church must always be our moral compass in everything that we do, and the church must always guide us in everything that we do politically, economically, and socially. We want to urge the leadership in the UPND to please refrain from engaging the church in a confrontational manner so that peace can prevail in this country. Zambia Must Prosper will not stand idly by and see the church be ridiculed for one thing or another for political gain.
Political scientist Alex Ngoma is concerned with the escalating rift between the Catholic Church and the United Party for National Development, UPND. Dr. Ngoma says there is urgent need for the two parties to resolve their differences. He has also advised the UPND administration not to be allergic to criticism. Dr. Ngoma notes with concern that the UPND have developed a tendency where they want to respond to each and everything that has been said about them.
The rift that is beginning to emerge between the church and the UPND government is very, very unfortunate. Unfortunate in the sense that it affects the affairs of this country. That is why it will be necessary for the parties concerned to do everything in their power to resolve their differences. Having said that, I think that it is extremely important for the UPND officials to really avoid being allergic to criticism. Anything and everything that is said about them, they will always respond. How often are they going to be responding to the 20 million Zambians? So it is very, very important to understand that they run in national affairs which affect the people, and therefore the people will always talk, especially the church that speaks for the voiceless. I think the church must be allowed to say what it has to say. Not that when a priest says something in support of the church, of the UPND government, then that is a good priest. A priest who says, look, something is going wrong, something is not in order, then they say this one is partisan. That I think is not in order. And therefore it is important, I think, for the UPND government to accord the church the kind of respect it has always enjoyed in this country. The church is the church actually is or can be seen to be, you know, a unifier in the affairs of the nation. It has done so much. It is a voice of reason. Every single time something is not going on, you see the church rising. By the way, when the UPND government, when the UPND party was fighting for power, the church spoke for it, and then the UPND didn't criticize. Now that it is in government and it's being told something is not being done right, then it gets upset. That I think is very strange. So in short, I'm simply saying that the UPND must learn to be tolerant, must learn to develop a thick skin. That is what it means to run public affairs. People will talk no matter what they say. Or
Chikondi Foundation President Bishop John Mambo has expressed concern over what he has described as a belligerent and antagonistic approach adopted by Lusaka Catholic Diocese Archbishop Alec Banda in addressing the national affairs, particularly his confrontational attitude towards President Hakainde Hichilema. In a statement, Bishop Mambo says the current issues of hunger and poverty cannot effectively be addressed without addressing past instances of treasury rooting, adding that similarly, the prevailing poverty cannot be tackled without examining the reckless borrowing that has led to the debt trap, hindering meaningful development and job creation for citizens. He adds that one cannot claim to speak for the people of Chawama now when they failed to question the incidents of gassing that suffocated and claimed the lives of their fellow citizens less than 2 years ago, or the fatal shooting of Nsana Chipoka and Joseph Kaunda. Bishop Mambo states that if Archbishop Banda remains silent during these tragic situations and many more, his current combative and acidic attitude exposes his true stance.
Insults where I said now remove the clause that, but people have taken it for granted because my sister, freedom, it has where it ends. You can't start going to, I've seen some other media where they'll say this clergy is going with this sister and all. It's quite, in their calling, these people is men syllabus, women the same. So from time to time they just have to meet. They're born from women. But you see, the moment you start people, like I have spoken, it's just that I've been with you long. I'm not going to answer back. I've said it. Take it or leave it. No one come to me tomorrow. You have come because you know me. You are part of my family. It ends there. The rest come tomorrow. Tabuli. Because I said it. If there's something called me and said, what did you say? Sasir. So the important thing is dialogue. Even in the family, I've learned the hard way. When you don't talk, even to your children, to your spouse, and so at the end of the day, you have issues. So where we have reached, all of us are provoked, including myself. Because anything, whether it's for good or what, they'll twist it to be bad. You have joined. There are people who have said, us, we talk for people who are heading. I said, you, since when? Because we're together all along. We're talking for the wrong. Today, this man you have been with all along. Now, there's also this weakness of Kangon. It's continuing. If you're weak, Kangon will kill you. Because they still have it. So the people that I know, they're the ones who said, why this? I said, you. When did you change? And sometimes it was a mistake by not inviting them.
The train service from Livingston to Mlowezi and vice versa. Zambia Railways Limited Acting Public Relations Manager Sombwe Longwani says the suspension has been necessitated by the unsafe condition of Bombo Bridge, which requires urgent repair works for the safe passage of the train and passengers. Ms. Longwani says the government, through the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, has since allocated a budget of 27 million kwacha towards the rehabilitation of the Bombo Bridge. She says upon receiving the funds, Zambia Railways Limited immediately commenced the procurement process of engaging a consultant. She says the process has since been completed, with the Attorney General clearing the execution of the contracts with the consultant. Ms. Longwani adds that the consultant is expected to move on site to carry out the assessment in a week of beginning 5th June 2023. Medical for Quality Healthcare in Zambia is urging government to partner with the private sector in solving the problems affecting the health sector. Organization Director General Quince Mwabu has noted that public-private sector collaboration will help in the delivery of quality healthcare service in the country. Dr. Mwabu says that government can address the challenge by partnering with private sector investors and practitioners. He says that the nation must begin to see private-public partnerships in the health sector as an effective means of improving the health system and healthcare delivery in the country.
We are urging the government to partner with the private sector to solve the problem affecting the health sector. We have noted that public-private sector collaboration will encourage the health sector to improve the quality of healthcare services delivered in the country. The government can address challenges by partnering with the private sector, investors, and practitioners in the area of universal health coverage. The nation must begin to see private and public partnership as an effective means of improving the health system and healthcare delivery in the country. The nation must also find innovative ways to commence a local pharmaceutical industry production, because it is inappropriate for the government to depend on importation of medicine and other medical supplies. Further, the private sectors has so far made important contribution to the fight against infectious diseases and also non-communicable diseases in the country. The country will benefit more if the government takes collaboration with the private sector to the next level, particularly in the area of universal health coverage. The private sector has a lot of innovation, a lot of ideas, and a lot of efficiency that can help the health sector to thrive. The government cannot do it alone. Structure partnership in the private sector is the way to go. Public-private sector partnership is the future, and the government has to engage with them as quickly as possible.
The Siavonga Magistrate Court.
A fifth of Europe is at risk of experiencing a drought this summer. Parts of Spain and southern France are already experiencing water shortages, with farmers expecting the worst yield in decades. The situation is especially serious as it follows years of consecutive drought, which have depleted groundwater reserves. The average temperature in the Mediterranean region is now 1.5 degrees higher than it was 150 years ago. That's in line with the forecast scientists have made about how climate change will impact the region. Now, addressing this problem is among the items high on the agenda at a meeting of EU agricultural ministries taking place in Brussels today. DW correspondent Jack Park is there and has been following the talks closely. Jack, farmers in Europe are already under pressure and the summer has barely begun. What could they be in for in the coming months?
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to get much worse for them, Kate. That's what we're hearing, and that's why the Spanish especially, along with the Portuguese, the French and the Italians, are ringing the alarm bell on this. They say that the European Union needs to act collectively as soon as possible to deal with this. We know that throughout the summer it's expected to be continued low rainfall. Obviously, we don't expect very much rainfall in the summer, but it's also potentially predicted that there could be extreme heat waves like we've seen